Yeah. It feels like everywhere you turn lately, everyone's talking about how tough it is for guys to stay close as they get older.
Yeah.
I even saw this Reddit post just blow up, hundreds
Really?
of comments all on this question. Why is it so hard for men to keep friends? It
Wow.
really makes you think, right?
It does make you think. And
Yeah.
what's so interesting is that the guy who actually posted it, like the original poster, Coldly 4003, hit on something that we see in research a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, guys have loads of friends when they're kids,
Uh-huh.
but then fewer as adults.
Right.
And a lot of times, it seems like after marriage, the wife ends up being the main friend,
Yeah.
or even like the only close connection.
That's a big shift.
It is.
So that's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We're using this Reddit thread. Why is it so hard for men to keep friends? To kind of get into those firsthand perspectives.
Awesome.
And the big question is, why is it harder for men, especially compared to women,
Right.
who always seem to have those solid friend groups throughout their lives?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And these real life stories can point us to some of those bigger social patterns.
Totally. One thing that really jumped out at me was how many guys were talking about their wives almost being friendship gatekeepers.
Interesting.
Yeah, like actively discouraging friendships
Uh-huh.
or even subtly sabotaging their guy time.
It's interesting when we look at couples and friendships. Things can get a little complicated.
Definitely.
It's not always intentional.
Right.
But sometimes one partner starts to feel insecure
Oh, yeah.
or even threatened by the other person's close friends.
That makes sense.
It could be about control. It could be like different expectations.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they just straight up don't like the friends.
Like Willinghold 1115.
Oh, yeah.
He shared that both of his ex-wives actually discouraged him from even hanging out with friends.
Wow.
And he told this story
Okay.
about how he was building a motorcycle with his buddies.
Cool.
Sounds awesome, right?
Yeah.
But his wife got so upset that he actually gave it up.
That's sad, actually.
Yeah.
That can really breed resentment,
Right.
and it makes someone feel really stifled in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it's not even just about that activity, but it's about having the freedom to enjoy a social life.
Exactly. And then there's Direct Ad 8341.
Okay.
His wife uses all these little tactics to stop him from climbing with his friends.
Oh, no.
It's always like, oh, honey, why don't we go climbing after we have lunch with my second cousin twice removed?
Wow.
And then, surprise, surprise,
Yeah.
it's suddenly way too late to go.
It's a classic.
It's
Unfortunately, one partner's social life is seen as less important,
right.
less worthy of respect.
Yeah,
It's definitely a form of control,
for sure.
whether they realize it or not.
To be fair, though, some of the guys said their wives are super supportive.
That's good.
Like Bull Torpedo.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, it's not just wives, right?
No.
Sometimes husbands are the ones that try to isolate their partners.
That's true.
So it's not about pointing fingers at one gender or the other.
Mhm.
It's just about recognizing that control can happen on either side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The issue is the controlling behavior.
No, right.
And that can really damage any relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Romantic or not.
Another big theme in the thread was just the lack of time, money, and energy
Yeah.
to even nurture those friendships,
It's tough.
especially when you've got all these work and family demands.
Right.
You know?
And that's where we see those societal pressures coming in. They're
Superb.
supposed to be the providers. They're not supposed to prioritize work.
Be super dads.
Super dads, exactly.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And there's only so much time left for other things.
Exactly.
P000PJU1C3 put it pretty bluntly.
Oh, yeah.
He said there's only so much time in a day.
True.
So when your time is getting eaten up by work and family and just keeping life afloat,
Right. Something's got to give.
and it's those competing priorities,
Yeah.
friendships often end up at the bottom of the list. Yeah, it's true.
But, even if it feels impossible to squeeze it in,
Yeah.
connection is so important
It is.
for well-being.
It really is.
It is.
Some of those comments really highlighted that feeling of exhaustion, too.
Right.
Like zero energy left for friends.
Yeah.
Illustrious Shake 6072 said, having a young child is basically like having another demanding partner.
Wow.
It's a 247 job.
That's a lot.
And then SGG It's Me just straight up said, I barely have enough energy to deal with my shit and my partner's shit.
Oh, my God.
I have exactly zero energy left over for anyone else's shit.
It sounds harsh,
Yeah.
but I think it reflects a real experience of burnout.
Oh, totally.
And I think it's not even about being a bad friend.
Right.
It's about being so depleted that self-care takes over.
Yeah.
And that can mean pushing social connections to the side.
Anyone who's ever felt that end-of-day drain can relate.
Totally.
Just want some peace and quiet.
Exactly.
But I guess the challenge is finding that balance,
Yeah.
right? Because even though solitude is great for recharging,
Uh-huh.
we are social creatures by nature.
We are.
We need that connection.
To thrive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another thing that the Reddit thread brought up was this whole couple friend thing.
Oh, yeah.
There was this one guy, Ilini too.
Okay.
He's the only single guy in his group,
Got it.
and all his friends are married couples.
Okay.
And he was saying how everyone's always gravitating towards other couples. And
Yeah.
it's like they're forming these friendships based on convenience
Mm-hmm.
more than genuine connection.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting.
That's a really key point because
Yeah.
it highlights how you can feel lonely. Even within a marriage, you can be surrounded by all these people.
Going to dinners.
Going to your events.
Yeah, but still feel isolated.
It's not deep.
Yeah, if it's lacking that real depth.
Yeah.
It's like going through the motions of being social,
Right.
but not really getting that deep connection.
And sometimes prioritizing those couple friends might actually be a way to avoid that deeper intimacy,
Interesting.
whether they realize it or not.
Yeah. One commenter was even joking how it's so funny when his friends are like, oh, we're hanging out with Jen and Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, who the heck are Jen and Dave?
Right.
They're just these random people from the park.
Yeah.
But they're spending more time with them than with their actual friends.
I think it speaks to how appealing the familiar can be.
Yeah.
Even if it's shallow.
Totally.
You'll see.
Those shamed routines.
Yeah.
But it makes you think how important it is to be intentional about the relationships we're cultivating.
Right.
Are they actually bringing genuine connection?
Yeah.
Or are they just filling space?
It's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we've got the wife is blocker idea.
Uh-huh.
We've got the time crunch.
Yeah.
And a couple friend trap.
Totally.
But there's another factor that kept coming up,
What's that?
the communication gap.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where we start to see those differences between how men and women approach friendships.
Right.
Women seem to prioritize emotional sharing and regular communication,
Yeah.
whereas men, it seems like they bond more through activities.
Uh-huh.
And they might not be as good at reaching out just to chat.
It's a different style.
Yeah?
For sure.
Dersh 1981 said it straight up.
What is it?
We suck at communicating.
Oh, wow.
He noticed that women are way better at checking in,
Yeah.
while men kind of wait for the other person to make the first move.
And then everyone just whiz. Friendship inertia.
I love that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they don't care, right?
No, it doesn't.
It's just a different way of showing it.
Right.
Like Blaze E4200 tried, he could call up a friend
Yeah.
who he hasn't spoken to in 10 years,
Wow.
and they could pick right back up where they left off.
That's great.
So maybe it's not lack of caring.
Right.
It's a different way to staying connected.
What matters is realizing that there are different communication styles.
Yeah,
And different ways of showing you care.
totally.
And not reaching out constantly doesn't mean the friendship's not important.
I love this one analogy that ThinkPod Laptop gave.
Okay.
He was saying women figured out ages ago that being housewives
Mm-hmm.
stood at home with just their husbands
Right.
was bad for their mental health.
Makes sense.
So they build these housewife communities,
Smart.
and they learn to prioritize that connection.
Yeah.
And he was saying, meanwhile, men are stuck in these like weird solitary concepts of self-growth or whatever. It's like a
Yeah.
totally different approach.
And it is.
And his solution was so funny.
What was it?
He was like, go play golf,
Okay.
shoot hoops with your geezer friends,
Uh-huh.
work on a shitty, overpriced Harley with your neighbor.
I love it.
It's all about finding those activities that build the bond naturally.
Right.
It's like he's saying, dudes, just go do stuff.
Stop overthinking it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then there was Infinite Material 780.
Okay.
He had this whole theory about how women evolved to support each other.
Interesting.
Because way back when, being alone could literally get you killed.
Oh, wow.
So it's like this evolutionary perspective on female friendship.
That's fascinating.
It is. I mean, we can't draw a straight line from ancient survival instincts
Right.
to how we act today.
Of course.
But it does make you think about those deep-rooted differences
Mm-hmm.
between how men and women have navigated relationships throughout history.
It raises good questions.
It does.
About our assumptions.
Totally.
You know, we always hear that men bond through activities and women through emotions.
Right.
But maybe it's not so cut and dry. Maybe there's more to it.
And that leads to another interesting point that came up.
Okay.
Jealousy and competition
Oh, yeah.
in male friendships.
That's tough.
Luceri noticed that some guys just drop their friends who get more successful. It's like this ego thing
Yeah.
and this competition.
It's a sensitive topic.
It is.
It's important.
Yeah,
Because it touches on those insecurities
Yeah.
that can exist in any friendship.
right.
Not just male friendships.
He even said the friends who haven't done this and are genuinely happy for your success are the keepers, but they were a rare breed.
Oof, that's kind of a bummer.
I know.
It might sound pessimistic,
Yeah.
but a lot of people have experienced this.
Yeah, it's true.
We all have egos.
Yeah.
It's hard not to compare ourselves.
Especially when your friends are hitting those different levels of success.
And it can trigger those feelings of inadequacy.
Yeah, totally. But Burley Seven had a good counterpoint to that.
Oh, good.
What do you say? He's seen both men and women get competitive with their friends.
Yeah.
And he gave an example from his work, which is like 90% women.
Wow.
And he was saying how they're always making little snide comments about each other.
Oh, no.
So it's not a men are competitive, women are a supportive thing.
Well,
it's
yeah.
way more nuanced than that.
It's human.
Yeah.
It is.
We all struggle with that insecurity and jealousy
And
sometimes. So how do we deal with that?
I think it's about shifting your perspective.
Okay.
Instead of seeing your friend's success as a threat, see it as something to celebrate.
That's a good point.
Their achievements don't diminish yours.
Yeah.
In fact, they can even inspire you.
Yeah.
It's about sharing that journey.
Even if our paths look different.
Even if they look different, exactly. And, if those jealous feelings come up, be honest with your friend.
That's tough.
It is.
But it's probably the best way.
Open communication can really help.
Diffuse those negative emotions.
Yeah, before they fester.
Before they ruin the relationship.
Exactly. It takes courage to be vulnerable.
It does.
But it can lead to a much stronger bond.
And sometimes it's just about accepting that not all friendships last forever.
It's
People
the exchange. People
They're in
live.
exchange.
Priorities change.
And sometimes we just grow in different directions.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's part of life.
It's tough to swallow, but I guess sometimes letting go is a sign of growth too.
It is.
Recognizing that you're on different paths.
And it doesn't diminish what you shared.
Right.
Or the impact of that friendship.
Exactly.
Oh.
One last thing from the thread that really got me thinking.
Okay.
It was from Bignologist 7790.
What do you say?
He was talking about how work and social connections have changed so much.
Yeah.
And he brought up this idea of retirement employment,
Okay.
where guys used to stay at the same company their whole lives,
Right.
live in the same town,
Uh-huh.
build these super deep bonds with coworkers and neighbors.
Yeah.
And he thinks that decline in stability
Right.
has led to fewer chances to form those lasting friendships.
It's a powerful observation.
It is.
The nature of work has changed.
Totally.
There's no mobility,
Yeah.
less job security,
Yeah.
and fewer of those traditional social structures that used to build community.
It's like we're always on the move.
Right.
Chasing opportunities, relocating for work.
Yeah.
It's hard to put down roots and build those networks
It is.
that maybe our parents' generation took for granted.
Right. So the question is, how do we create community and connection
Yeah.
in this modern world?
When those structures are kind of disappearing,
Exactly.
it's something we're all figuring out, I think.
Yeah,
It's going to take some creativity, intentionality,
For sure.
maybe even rethinking what friendship even looks like in
Right.
the 21st century.
It's a challenge,
Yeah.
but it's also an opportunity.
I like that.
Yeah, we have to find new ways to connect,
Mm-hmm.
build those support networks,
Yeah.
and create spaces where genuine friendship can flourish.
I love that. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2,
Sounds good.
looking at some of those potential solutions and strategies.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Me too. Welcome back to our deep dive into male friendships.
Yeah. We've talked about some of the challenges,
Uh-huh.
those things that guys face when they're trying to keep those close connections.
Right, like societal pressures, communication gaps, sort of
Indeed.
tricky couple friendships.
Oh, yeah, those can be rough.
But now I think it's time to kind of shift gears a little bit
Right, right.
and explore some solutions.
Awesome.
Because honestly, these friendships are worth it.
They are so worth it.
Right, they add so much to our lives.
Absolutely.
That support, that companionship,
Uh-huh.
that sense of belonging that's like crucial for well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin? How do we go beyond just talking about the problem and actually start nurturing these connections?
I think the first step is admitting that it takes effort.
Yeah,
Building and maintaining friendships doesn't just happen magically.
it doesn't.
It takes being intentional,
Right.
a little bit vulnerable,
Uh-huh.
putting in the work.
And for men who aren't naturally expressive
Right.
or communicative,
Right.
this can feel even harder.
It can.
For sure.
So what does that effort even look like in practice?
Yeah.
Are we talking about scheduled bro dates or daily thinking of you texts?
It doesn't have to be that rigid.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be forced.
Yeah.
I think it's often the small things
Yeah.
that matter the most.
Okay.
Like a quick phone call just to check in.
Right.
A spontaneous, hey, let's grab a beer.
Yeah.
A text acknowledging a friend's achievement.
Right.
These little acts of connection
Uh-huh.
go a long way.
Yeah. It's about showing up even when it's inconvenient
Exactly.
or when you're not feeling super chatty
Which, let's be honest, happens to all of us.
all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really about being present,
Yes.
listening attentively,
Uh-huh.
offering support.
And sometimes that's just lending an ear.
Right.
Sometimes just knowing that someone's there
Yeah.
makes all the difference.
What about stepping outside those comfort zones a little
Yeah.
bit? Like instead of always defaulting to, hey, let's watch the game.
Uh-huh.
Maybe suggesting a hike or trying a new restaurant together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sometimes breaking out of that routine
Mm.
can really spark a deeper connection. It's
Right.
being open to new experiences,
Yeah.
showing genuine interest in your friend's life.
Yeah.
Beyond just the surface.
Beyond the surface.
Yeah.
So what about those communication gaps that we talked about?
Right.
Any tips for bridging that divide?
Well, one strategy is just being more proactive.
Yeah, okay.
Don't wait for your friend to reach out.
Yeah.
Take the initiative.
Okay.
Call, text, send a funny meme.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a deep conversation every time. It's
Right.
just about staying in touch.
Uh-huh.
Even in small ways, it
Yeah.
keeps those connections alive.
It's like sending out those little friendship flares.
I love that, right?
Friendship flares.
Just to remind each other you're there,
Exactly.
still thinking about them.
Exactly. And, for guys who have a harder time expressing those feelings directly,
Right.
think about alternative ways to show that you care.
Absolutely.
Like sending them an article that they might like,
Yeah.
offering to help with a project,
Uh-huh.
even just saying, hey, man, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Like, those gestures speak
They
volumes.
do.
Even without saying, I love you, bro.
It's about finding those ways of connecting
Right.
that feel authentic to you.
Yeah.
To your personality.
To your personality.
And to your communication style.
What about being vulnerable enough to admit that you need support?
Oh, that's a big one.
It is, right?
Yeah. Men are often taught to be so stoic,
Uh-huh.
self-reliant,
Yeah.
but, reaching out to a friend when you're struggling
Right.
can actually strengthen that bond.
Because it's a two-way street, right?
Exactly.
It's not just about giving support. It's about receiving it.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together
Yeah.
and that it's not a weakness to ask for help.
Right.
It's a sign of trust
Yeah.
and connection.
What about the jealousy and competition?
Ooh.
How do we deal with those feelings?
Yeah, those are tough.
Because we all experience them sometimes. So
see.
how do we navigate that in a healthy way?
I think one key is to shift your perspective.
Exactly.
Instead of seeing a friend's success as a threat,
Uh-huh.
see it as something to celebrate.
That's a good response.
Their achievements don't take away from yours.
Right.
They can actually inspire you
Totally.
to reach for your own goals.
Yeah.
It's about sharing the journey.
Not getting caught up in who's ahead.
Exactly.
And if those feelings do come up,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Address them head on.
It's tough.
It's hard,
Yeah.
but honest communication,
Mm-hmm.
as uncomfortable as it can be,
Yeah.
is the best way to prevent those negative emotions from hurting the relationship,
Right.
from festering.
What about accepting that not every friendship is meant for the long haul?
It's hard,
But it is.
but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
People change, priorities shift.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes those paths just naturally diverge,
And that's okay.
and that's okay.
It's a part of life.
It is.
It doesn't mean it was a failure.
Right.
It just means that you've both evolved,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you're heading in different directions now.
And it doesn't diminish the value
Right.
of what you share.
Or the impact that that friendship had
Exactly.
on your life.
Exactly.
So, we talked about these traditional structures of work and social connection
Right.
kind of fading away.
Yeah.
So if those are disappearing,
Mm-hmm.
where do we find these connections?
It takes being intentional
Okay.
about seeking out communities
Yeah.
that match your interests and your values.
Like what?
It could be joining a sports league,
Okay.
volunteering for a cause you care about,
Uh-huh.
taking a class,
Right.
even just striking up conversations with people
Yeah.
who share your passions.
It's about putting yourself out there,
It is.
even when it feels awkward.
Which it will.
Yeah.
At first.
Stepping outside that comfort zone can be scary,
It can.
but I think that's where the magic happens.
I love that, stepping outside the comfort zone.
And being open to those connections in unexpected places.
Absolutely. You
Mm.
never know where you're going to meet your next great friend.
And technology can actually be a really great tool here,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right? There are so many online communities
Uh-huh.
and platforms.
And then people with shared interests.
Exactly.
Whether it's gaming, music,
Yeah,
or even just discussing your favorite Reddit threads.
right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all doom and gloom for male friendships in the digital age.
Not at all.
It just might require a little bit more effort,
Yeah.
a little bit more creativity.
And that willingness to step outside our comfort zones.
Exactly.
And I think those connections are worth the effort.
They are.
They bring joy, support, laughter, and a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
That's essential for our well-being.
Well said.
Thank you.
So before we move on to part 3,
Okay.
where we'll explore some inspiring examples of men who are defying the odds and fostering these deep, meaningful connections.
I love it.
I want to remind our listeners to show us some love
Yes.
by liking this video and subscribing to Voices of the Soul.
Your support means the world to us.
It really does.
It helps us spread these conversations.
Yes.
And inspire more men to prioritize these friendships.
And don't forget to check out Shauna Polidge's YouTube channel
Yes.
for even more insightful content.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with part 3.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into male friendships.
We've explored the challenges, we've brainstormed solutions.
Uh-huh.
Now it's time for inspiration.
I love it.
For all the talk about the male loneliness epidemic,
Yeah,
there are tons of guys out there defying the odds,
right.
building those strong supportive bonds we all need.
Totally. And I love that these stories show us.
Yeah,
It's not about some magic formula
right.
or like a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing how valuable these connections are
Uh-huh.
and being willing to put in the work.
It's all about the effort.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some of those inspiring stories?
Okay.
What are some examples of men doing friendship, right?
One thing that comes to mind is the rise of men's groups and support circles.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about those.
Yeah, these are spaces where men can gather,
Oh,
share their experiences,
right.
and offer each other encouragement and accountability.
It's like a modern version of those old-school barbershop gatherings,
You got it.
right, where men used to connect and share their lives.
And they're proving so beneficial,
Yeah.
especially for men who might not have those traditional social networks.
Yeah,
Or who just don't feel comfortable opening up
right.
in more casual settings.
It's like creating a dedicated space for that vulnerability
Exactly.
and that emotional connection.
Which can be so powerful
Yeah.
for men who've been raised to bottle up those feelings.
What about the growing popularity of those shared hobbies and activities
Oh, yeah.
that are bringing men together?
Totally. We're seeing a resurgence in things like woodworking,
Cool.
craft brewing,
Uh-huh.
cycling groups,
Nice.
even book clubs,
Oh, wow.
specifically for men.
That's awesome.
It goes back to what we were talking about before.
Right.
Men often connect through those shared experiences.
It's like having that built-in conversation starter, that
Yeah.
common ground
Uh-huh.
that just naturally fosters those bonds
And it gives them a sense of purpose,
Right.
accomplishment.
that can boost self-esteem
Yeah,
and create camaraderie,
totally. It's not just hanging out.
Right.
It's working towards a shared goal.
which could be so bonding.
Exactly.
So we've got those organized groups
Uh-huh.
and those activity-based communities.
Yeah.
But what about those everyday friendships?
Those are important too. The
Yeah.
ones that kind of develop organically.
Right, through work or neighborhoods or just shared life experiences.
I think the key is to approach them intentionally. Be
Okay.
willing to go beyond the surface level.
So instead of just exchanging pleasantries at the water cooler,
Right.
maybe inviting coworker to lunch
Yeah.
or ask about their weekend plans.
Exactly. It's those small gestures
Uh-huh.
that can open the door to a deeper conversation and connection.
Right, and who knows?
Yeah.
That casual lunch could turn into a lifelong friendship.
You never know.
It's about being open to those unexpected connections
Absolutely.
and recognizing that friendship can blossom anywhere.
in the most ordinary places.
What about just being a good listener?
That's huge.
Right, sometimes that's the most valuable thing we can offer,
It really is.
especially in today's world.
Right, where everyone's so busy.
You're distracted
Yeah, just taking the time to truly listen to someone.
can be a profound gift.
It shows that you care,
Uh-huh.
that you value their thoughts and feelings.
And that you're there for them no matter what.
Exactly.
And it's not just about listening passively.
Oh,
It's about asking those thoughtful questions,
yeah.
offering support and encouragement.
And being present in that moment.
And sometimes it's about knowing when to offer advice
Right.
and when to just hold space for someone's pain or frustration.
It's a delicate balance,
It is.
but it's a skill worth developing.
Because being a good listener is really the foundation of any strong relationship.
I couldn't agree more.
And remember, friendship is a two-way street.
Yes, it is.
It's about giving and receiving,
Absolutely.
supporting and being
And
support
showing up for each other.
through those ups and downs.
Exactly.
It's recognizing that we're all in this together.
And that those shared experiences,
Yep.
both the good and the bad,
Mm.
are what make life so much richer.
And more meaningful.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's about celebrating those differences.
yes.
Appreciating those unique perspectives and
That
experiences.
each friend brings to the table.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we've come full circle. We started by acknowledging those challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but we're ending on this note of hope and inspiration.
I like it.
Because these friendships are worth it.
They
They
are
bring joy, support, and laughter,
a sense of belonging.
which is essential for our well-being.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think this deep dive has given us all some really valuable tools and insights
Yeah.
for how to cultivate these connections and make them a priority in our lives.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into male friendships.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope it sparked some reflection and inspiration
Yeah.
and maybe even a few action steps
Uh-huh.
for nurturing those vital bonds in your own life.
That's what we're here for.
And as always, we encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments or tag us on social media.
Keep this conversation going.
And if you enjoyed this episode of Voices of the Soul, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button
Yeah, and don't forget to check out Shauna Polidge's YouTube channel.
for even more thought-provoking content.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those friendships strong.
Exactly.
First time.